At least 70% of Ghanaians believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. That's according to a survey conducted by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD.
We had 70% believing the country is in the wrong direction. That is, the country probably is in the wrong gear. Instead of moving forward, probably we are reversing.
The survey paints an image of dissatisfaction among Ghanaians about the management of the economy. For instance, the survey revealed 6 out of 10 Ghanaians graded government poorly in providing reliable electricity, and these factors are likely to influence their votes.
A variety of policy and campaign issues ranging from bad roads, 76%, all the way to national embarrassment such as the World Cup scandal.
On the streets of Accra, however, the public have expressed mixed reactions on the survey.
Yeah, I agree with what the reports actually, because things are hard in situations and now employ.
For me, I can say that the country is moving in the right direction.
But which direction is the country moving? We will soon find out from the Center for Democratic Development, a governance analyst and economist, plus an energy analyst, all on today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. The survey, which was conducted by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, and covered the period of July 2 to 18, painted a cynicism of Ghanaians regarding the overall management of the economy. The research shows Ghanaians are worried about their own living conditions and the danger the worsening economy poses to their lives. We can listen to a senior research fellow at CDD, Daniel Ama-Ato, who presented the findings to journalists a while ago.
Perceived government to have performed very or fairly bad across the range of macroeconomic indicators that we have over there, and narrowing income gaps between the rich and the poor. So on these indicators, we had majorities of Ghanaians believing the government has done. Now, what do Ghanaians think about the direction of the country? We had 70% believing the country is in the wrong direction. That is, the country probably is in the wrong gear. Instead of moving forward, probably we are reversing. And then we also had about 24% thinking the country is headed in the right direction. And when we asked them whether they think government is solely responsible or government and other factors are responsible, we had almost half, 49%, attributing the direction of the country completely or mostly to government. Comparing this finding to that of Afrobarometer, we see about 12 percentage point drop in those who perceive the country to be in the wrong direction. In Afrobarometer, it was around 82, but the current one is around 70. So even though the 70 is high, it appears to have gone down a little bit. What are the policy priorities of Ghanaians? What we normally do is we ask respondents to give us 3 main problems that they want the government to address. But this time around, because it is a pre-election survey, we ask them to tell us what 3 main problems they think political campaigns should focus on. So basically about issues that they think politicians should address in their campaigns. And this is the finding that we had. Unemployment was first on the first priority list. It was also second on the second priority list, which simply means that Ghanaians see unemployment as a huge challenge. And this is something they want politicians to focus on during their campaign. And then we had electricity and education coming third. Now when we compare this finding we compare it to Afrobarometer, they are about the same. You can clearly see that between 2014 and 2016, Ghanaians' policy preference or policy priority mix has not changed so much. We still have unemployment, electricity, education, and management of the economy being in the forefront. So I think these are key issues that the electorates will want politicians to address during their campaigns. As to whether the government has been doing well or badly in handling their first policy priorities, so what we do is, the follow-up question is, given your first most important problem that you want the campaign to address, do you think the government has been doing well or badly handling that problem, addressing that problem? And what we found was that 64% believe the government is performing very or fairly badly in managing or addressing their first most important policy priority. And about the third, however, rated government's performance as very or fairly well. Once again, we look at the trend. Those who believe the government is managing their first policy priority very or fairly badly dropped from 66 to 64, so just some negligible reduction. And those who believe they are doing fairly or very well moved from 28 to 32 or so. And then those who don't know, 4% to 3%, virtually the same. A narrow majority also believe that another political party can do a better job of addressing their first most important priority.
Let's do some analysis now. On the phone lines, I have Dr. Lord Mensah with the University of Ghana Business School, and I also have Mr. Daniel Ama Ato. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for Democratic Development. Good evening to you, gentlemen.
Good evening, madam.
Now, let me start with you, Mr. Daniel Ato. I want to find out, how did you come by this report? I'm talking about your respondent, I'm talking about sampling method, and I'm also talking about what criteria you used to collate this information.
Well, let me start by saying the survey was conducted between 2nd and 18th July of this year, and so whatever information we sent out today has to do with that opinions within that period. As you said, we normally use nationally representative sample in most of our surveys, and in this case we interviewed about 2,400 respondents. These respondents were selected randomly across the 10 regions of the country, and they are found within rural and urban enclaves of the country. So the processes by which we normally use in selecting these respondents makes our survey results to have a margin of error of plus or minus 2% at a 95% confidence level. So basically, the survey findings is representative of the opinions of the adult population in Ghana. And if I say adult population, what I mean is people aged 18 years and above.
Okay, Ms. Ama, I'll have you hold and I'll speak with Dr. Lord Mensah. Doc, government received poor grades from a clear majority of Ghanaians across a range of micro indicators, narrowing income gaps, keeping prices down, creating jobs, improving the living standards of the poor, and managing the economy. Does this reflect the reality?
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Mensah.
Yeah, am I on air?
Yes, you're on air. You're on today's big story.
Right. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes. What the question I asked, the survey puts it that a majority of Ghanaians across a range, they gave government poor grades, and the range is from micro indicators, narrowing income gaps, keeping prices down, creating jobs, improving the living standards of the poor, and managing the economy generally. And I'm asking, does this reflect the reality?
Well, if you listen to my colleague who just spoke on the survey, I think they went deeply into the survey, clarifying the methodologies that were used. And from the look of things, he mentioned that the sample was about 2,400. And then also looking at the various regional capitals, and then looking at some rural and then urban people from the various regions, and it was purely random. So then 2004, we're looking at over 25 million people in this country. And then if you do random sampling, you are likely to pick people who are in one particular region, and if it's purely random. So I was expecting the reflection will be purely what the city perceives the country. And if you look at population categorization in this country, we're looking at the rural folks who give birth more than those in the city. So the reflection of what is going on or what is being portrayed in the research is basically purely for the city. So I would have loved to see a situation where they would do kind of stratified sampling, where the population, density will be considered in terms of how to consider the strata before they go in for the sampling from the various strata. So that was my expectation. So I think this research that reflects the city, and that might not necessarily be the true reflection of what the people need. Because if you go to the poor man sitting somewhere in a rural area, and you go and ask the person about how the economy is faring, I don't think you get a very good response. So for me, this is purely a reflection of how the country should go, or the direction of the country as far as the city folks are concerned.
So the country is not going in the wrong direction?
Well, I can't say that, but I think the whole discussion is based on the survey that came up, isn't it?
Yes, and about 70%.
So my submission is based on the survey, and then the report that came out. I'm saying it's purely a reflection of what is happening at the regional capitals. And if you do random sampling for over 25 million across the regions, you're likely to pick the chunk of the people from one particular region. And if you take you end up being biased as far as your report is concerned.
All right, let me have you hold once more and speak with Mr. Daniel Ama-Ato. If you can hear me. Okay, I'm told we've lost Mr. Daniel Ama-Ato on the phone. Let me still speak with you, Dr. Lord Mensah. Now, the other issue that came up on this survey is that the respondents are saying that government actually did not perform well. Majority of the respondents are saying government performed poorly. It says government performed very or fairly badly in the delivery of a range of economic and social goods. Is that the true picture?
Are you still on me, Mom?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, fine. For me, as I'm sitting here in Accra, I would say that is a true picture. Because if you look at performance, we're looking at how prices are going up. We're looking at how cost of borrowing, as far as interest rate structures is concerned. When you're going to borrow, businesses find it difficult in borrowing. If you look at how energy sector is being, crippled, if you look, there are so many factors that you can use to indicate that the government is not performing. But these performance measures will not reflect someone who is in the village. We are two different people altogether. And those people sitting somewhere in the rural and then rural areas are not so tied to the economy as far as these indicators are concerned. So if you look at the measurement, as I sit here in Accra, sitting in my car, I can feel the heat of the economy. But I don't feel it this way as it's supposed to be. So, when it comes to survey, we really have to be careful and how we put out reports.
Okay, so let me have you hold because Mr. Daniel Ama-Ato is back on the line. Mr. Daniel Ama-Ato, we know about the factors that is likely to influence the voter's choice, some of them being lack of employment, education, which is not being run well. We know about the power outages. All of these, the respondents said it will influence their choice of a candidate. But let's see what factors, is unlikely to inform their decision of a candidate or their choice of a candidate.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to that, I think I need to clarify some of the issues raised by my colleague at the other end.
Right.
Let me say that I never said our survey was restricted to the regional capitals. What I said is that we went to the entire 10 regions of this country.
Okay.
And if you have our report, you will realize that we've at least compared the survey distribution of our sample population against the national distribution of the adult population. And they match actually. Also, in terms of the rural distribution of the adult population, our survey distribution matches that of the national. And that is why I'm saying this is a random sampling. I understand his idea of the stratified sampling. Let me take time to explain to him. This is basically a multi-state stratified sampling distribution that we use. And so it is purely representative of whatever is happening in the country. And so I think he is having that kind of confusion because he thought I said we restricted ourselves to the regional capitals, which are mainly the urban areas. No.
Okay.
We went to 46, let me state it, 46% of our respondents are from rural enclaves, 54 are from urban centers. And that is according to the adult population distribution. If you add the ages below 18 years to reach, the distribution of the rural-urban changes a little bit. But here is the case: we are dealing with election issues. You don't expect 15-16% to vote. So you target people who are 18 years, and therefore the distribution of the rural-urban will not be the same as what pertains to the total population adult rural distribution. Clear? So I think we need to get this thing clearly. Okay. Otherwise, we may end up thinking whatever we have presented is restricted to just urban centers. And now
I think that clarification has been made, Mr. Amato.
Let me now come to your question on factors that may not affect the voter choice. What we saw was that most of the people said religious affiliation of candidates would never influence their decision. They also said the home region where the candidate is coming from will not influence their choice. And then the last one was that whether the people buy vote or not, it will not influence their choice. So these are some of the issues that we saw from our survey.
Well, many thanks to Daniel Ama-Ato. He's a senior research officer at the CDD Ghana. Dr. Lord Mensah, he's just made some clarification. He says this was sampled in all 10 regions. Does it change your position?
Yeah, it won't change my position because I just heard him saying that we're looking at about 46% of his sample coming from the rural areas. And if you look at the parameters, the questions that were thrown out to people, I think if you look at it carefully, some of them are purely kind of a city-oriented questions, I will put it this way. Because if you ask a villager about the performance of the economy, or the performance of the managers of our economy, I think they will find it difficult to respond to that. But I'm not privy to the questions that were put out there. I would love to see the questions before I comment in details on this thing. But then I bet to differ on the response that will come from the rural forum.
Well, many thanks to you. Dr. Lord Mensah is an economic analyst. He's a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. So what factors will influence voters? I mean, looking at some of these issues they've raised.
So now we move into factors that are likely to influence voter preferences. And as Prof said, that will actually influence their choices at the forthcoming polls. Solid majorities of Ghanaians claim their own choices in the 2016 polls will be influenced a great deal or somewhat by a variety of policy and campaign issues ranging from bad roads, 76%, all the way to national embarrassments such as the World Cup scandal in the half, a little over half, compared to the others is on the lower side. But the key ones are the bad roads, government corruption, power outages, high prices of foodstuffs, ability to get medical care, use of abusive language, arrogance and disrespectful nature of politicians. So we can clearly see these are issues that they claim will have strong influence on the decisions they will make at the 2016 elections. A majority of Ghanaians, that is 57%, endorse voting for the parliamentary candidate who will make policies that benefit everyone in the country. But we also found that 4 in every 10 Ghanaians say they will vote for candidates who can deliver goods and services to people in their community. So virtually what this slide is telling us is that once again, people are going to vote on the basis that the one I'm voting for to vote for is able to formulate policies and implement those policies to the benefit of every Ghanaian. That is what I see from this slide. They are not thinking about bring me some goods in my community and I will vote for you, but rather what can you do to help all of us as a nation? And that is something that is coming out here. A majority of Ghanaians strongly agree with the statement that they vote for parliamentary candidate of political party that advances ideas they share. And nearly 4 in 10, on the other hand, say they vote on the basis of the merits of the candidate and the party affiliation is secondary. So over here, I see 2 issues coming up. One, they are ready to vote for somebody who shares ideas that they believe in. So in that situation, if you have some issues on board and they believe in that issue, then you are likely to get their vote. On the other hand, where the party colors are concerned, they are not important to them. It is about, one, the merit of the candidate. Looking at the candidate, can this person deliver on what I want? That is what I get from this story.
We can now go to the streets and gauge the mood of some electorates on this survey.
For me, I can say that the country is moving in the right direction, because now for us, I just completed the school, and now after completing school, now I've even gotten a job. I've not even received my certificate and I've even gotten a job. So for me, the country is moving forward and it's moving in the right direction.
I think statistically they are right, but if it's, I feel that it's our attitude that's making everything so difficult for us, because our attitude towards work is very bad. And
yeah, I agree with what the reports actually, because things are hard in situations and now employment, considering infrastructure, fares and all that, and even 3 square meals a day for some people is actually a very big problem.
Yeah, the country is moving in the wrong direction, in the extent that when you go out of school, you didn't get a job, you find it difficult working on the streets before you get a job to do. Sometimes you need to establish yourself before you get something to do.
I would say it's moving into the wrong direction, because most of the graduate students are not getting employment, and it's really causing problem in the country.
I don't see any better things going on in this country, and everyone is like pushing himself into this office works and all kind of things, doesn't even think of how to build up the nation. If everybody runs to the office things, now who's going to create and who's going to provide for us to eat?
I believe the country is moving in the wrong direction, because the leaders we have are not able to allocate resources very well, and there is a different direction of people, like the students who are graduating out of the tertiary institutions. They always want to be in the better place. They don't want to be as entrepreneurs creating jobs, and there's a lot of unemployment, and people are always moving out from the country. And I think all these things and the supervision of the infrastructure that's been developed by the country.
I think that is subjective, right? Because everybody has his or her own opinion. For me, I would have to consider it in sector basis. For some of the sectors of the economy, I think that things are being done better, but even that there is more room for improvement. And for other sectors, considering education, the financial sector, and then in fact socioeconomic sectors of our lives. I think that so much has to be done.
The country is moving in the right direction because we have the sense of democracy. That's we can share our ideas on through the media. That's the TV, like as you are doing now on the radio. We can give our complaints to sometimes good morning shows. So I think the country is moving in the right direction.
Well, on the phone line is Dr. Edward Brenya. He is a political and governance analyst, and he is with the University of Science and Technology, NUST. Good evening to you, Doc. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Good evening.
Doc, Ghanaians did not mince words. I mean, this according to the report, when they suggested government's handling of issues such as unemployment, electricity, and education is not encouraging. How does this come across to you?
Well, first of all, let me greet the able listeners that when it comes to the substantive issue, I think the CDD report on the opinion poll, that suggests a lot in terms of what Ghanaians think of the administration of the NDC at the moment. That 7 out of 10 think that things are not going in the right direction. The question, as you put it, what does that mean for the government and the NDC going forward? I know we know people, as generally in some cases, opinion poll has reflected the outcome of elections, but not in all instances do we see that. And in this case, I think the NDC has a lot of time that this opinion poll will go in to influence their strategy going into 2016 elections. I don't think that at this time we'll be in a very good position to suggest that the findings at this time might affect the NDC negatively. The outcome will be more on what the NDC does with this report. If the NDC is able to project other things that they're doing and come out to let people know that in as much as they care about the economy, that capital projects in terms of roads and other things that also matter, I think that NDC could turn around and use this report to their advantage. If they on the other hand, NDC decides to brush it aside and keep it as one of those biased findings, it might have negative impact on the party.
Well, many thanks you, Dr. Edward Brenya. That's all time will allow us. This is today's big story. We're talking about the CDD report released just a while ago, and which says that about 70% of Ghanaians believe the country's economy is going in a wrong direction. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Have a good evening.